Hi there, my name is Will, and today I'm going to walk you through how you can build Python packages directly inside of Kestra that you can then use in multiple workflows. When using Python, it's really handy to be able to use a bunch of different packages, but sometimes you need to make your own packages, which you can do by building some sort of zip file or a wheel. And I'm going to show you how you can set up a flow that can build these, upload those to the namespace files, which you can then access between multiple flows in the same namespace. So let's check that out. Here I've got a workflow called build tar.gz. Now what this is going to do is we've got a Git repository that we can view here. Now this Git repository is set up with our Python project. As you can see here, if I go under, I've got all of the different dependencies for the project, so we can see some of the stuff there. If I go into source and then ETL in here, we can see a little bit more information too. So if I go under utils, we'll see that we've got a bunch of different things going on here as well. And we want to be able to then package this all up so we can use this as a library in our other workflows. So let's have a look at how we can do that. So the first step of this is to actually sync the whole of that Git repository, specifically the files, because there are some workflows in there too, but we don't care about those right now. So we can sync these, and when we sync them, they'll appear here as a namespace file, which means we can then easily tap in and use them. Now, as a namespace file, we can then use that with the Python script tasks. In this case, we're using the commands one, which we can then just tell it to simply build using that directory worth of files, and it will generate both tar.gz file as well as a will. Now, this one is specifically going to look at making a tar.gz file, but we will also make a will in a separate workflow. And then once we've got that output, we can then upload it so it will appear as a namespace file, but we're going to put it in a different namespace so that for in this scenario, the sales team who are going to use this workflow, they don't need to know about how it's built, they just need to be able to use it. So let's execute this and see this in action. So when I execute this, we'll see that it's going to clone all those files. And if I now edit the flow, we can see that they all appear now under files. And so now because of that, if I go back to the workflow, we'll see that it's actually been able to use that to build the thing. And we can see it's been able to build our package successfully. And if we go down, we can see at the bottom that it generated two separate files. It generated the tar.gz file as well as a will file. So now we can then use these later on. Now you may be wondering, how am I supposed to use these? So all we've done so far is just use a Python build command to build those packages. But how do we then use those in our separate code? Let's have a look at what that looks like. So here I've got a simple install from zip. So this is going to simply run some Python, but it's going to run it by using the library. And all we're doing is just simply a pip install, but instead of defining a package that's maybe available online, we're just referencing the file that's on our machine. If we click on files, we can see that the tar.gz file is available there. So now what we can do is just simply pip install it, and then we can reference it inside of our code, just like if the file itself was there inside of our code. So we can see we're importing etl.utils as ETL. Now if we go here, we can see that the folder is called ETL and the files is called utils. And we can see inside of the file specifically that it's going to do, we've got a couple of different bits going on here. You know, a couple of just utility sort of things. So here we can clean some white space, standardized date format. And if we look at the example, we're going to use the standardized date format. So we can take this input up here that has a date and it's going to change the format and then print it out. So now let's have a look to see if we can take this date and then format it correctly. So as we can see, it's installed successfully using these zip file that we had, and then we can go under here below and we can see that it then does output the correct file. So here it's actually put it into the ISO 8601 format, whereas previously it was in more of an American format where the day becomes before the month. So we can see that this successfully worked, and this means now if we've got a bunch of different code all packaged together, we can then just pass that zip file into the namespace and reference it very easily by just putting namespace files as true, maybe specifying specifically the zip file, and then we can just use the before commands to install it. So nice and straightforward if you've got something that requires something a little bit more complex than just using a package readily available on the internet. Now it's very similar for a will. Now this is actually very similar to what we had previously with the zip file. The difference here is we're specifying the output output file to be the will, but this build command actually generates both. So if we wanted, we could actually generate both files here as an output file and then upload both of them as well at the bottom. So we could do it all in one task. But for helping us identify the differences, I've got them as separate workflows. We're going to install the build package, and then we can use that here in the actual command task. Afterwards, we'll see it generates that file, and then afterwards, we'll see that it can upload it. Now, actually, if I was to just change this, and we can see it's going to generate that file. So now, if I press execute, we'll see that it's going to build the will file. We can see it's going to clone the Git repository. As we can see, all of it existed, so it just overwrote it. We can see that it then built it. And if we go right to the bottom, we can see it does say that it built both the tar.gz and the will file. And then if we go to the upload, we can see it uploaded just the will. So now if we go over to the install from will, if we now go onto files, we'll see we've got the Python will there ready to go. So very similar again to the install from zip. This is going to simply just install the will, and then we can just reference it in our code, just like if the file was inside of this namespace and not all packaged together. Now you may be wondering, why should I use will over a zip file? Now they're very similar, but the will is sort of improvement over the zip file. It's designed to be a little bit more lightweight, a little bit faster, a little bit more portable. So maybe worth having a look into using wills over zip files, and they're specifically designed for Python. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea on how you can build your own packages in Python, and then you can use them in Kestra to then use them between different workflows so that you don't have to have the same code multiple places. You can build it once and use it everywhere. So hopefully this will make it really simple to use Python across multiple workflows. Hopefully you found this useful and you're going to start building packages directly inside of Kestra for your workflows. Let us know in the comments below how you're going to use this. Don't forget to let us know in the comments below how you're going to use this, and don't forget to give us a GitHub star.